Well, our reporter Claire Paccalin is at the courthouse in central Paris for us today, and we can speak to her now. Claire, you've been watching the proceedings for most of this afternoon. Tell us a bit about what's been happening in court.
Well, Nadia, very recently the hearing has actually been put on hold for a little while. One of the defendants who had been accused of helping to prepare the attacks, he's accused of having given false paperwork, identity paperwork to the attackers. He seems to be feeling unwell. He's had some kind of a health issue suddenly, and they've had to put a pause on the hearing. We don't know how long that's going to be. We imagine that they're going to want to carry on with the hearing as soon as possible. For the moment, things are suspended. What we did hear earlier on in the afternoon was Salah Abdeslam, the suspect, that one remaining a member of the group of attackers on that fateful night, November 13th, 2015. He's accused of having been in Paris, been a member of that group. He has refused to cooperate with investigators. He said very little since he was arrested 5.5 years ago in Brussels, but he did say today, when he was asked by the leading judge a routine question, he was asked what his profession was before he'd been arrested, and he said that he'd given up having any professions and that he had become a fighter for the Islamic State. Now, I did speak to a lawyer recently, a lawyer for civil plaintiffs. She's representing victims, so survivors of the attacks, as well as family members who lost loved ones, and she said she had spoken to some of her clients and they'd said that they weren't particularly shocked or surprised by that outburst, that they knew Salah Abdeslam and the way he was and what he's like. They know his attitude now. He's refused to cooperate with investigators. That he comes out with a statement like that wasn't particularly surprising to them.
Now, Claire, the opening of this trial has been seen as a sort of moment of reckoning for many of the victims and for their families. Give us a sense, in the courtroom today, what's the atmosphere been like?
Well, certainly there's an atmosphere that you could say it was highly charged in terms of emotion, a bit of tension, but also, I did speak to some civil plaintiffs who said to me that they had prepared long and hard for this day. They knew it was coming. They've received psychological support. I also spoke to one of the representatives of Life for Paris, which is an association which was set up shortly after the attacks and is mostly made up of people who survived the Bataclan massacre. So these are people who have lived through hell and who've come out the other side of it. And they have been working on themselves now for quite some time to prepare themselves for this day. It's going to be a long one. This trial is going to continue for 8 or 9 months. Not all of the civil plaintiffs will, of course, come every day. They'll come on days which are most relevant to them and what they lived through and where that attack took place, because of course throughout the trial different days will be scheduled for different parts of the investigation and the case. But certainly what's crucial to remember, and this is what the Life for Paris representative told me, it is important to manage expectations here, that this trial cannot give emotional closure. This trial is not necessarily going to provide all the answers which some victims are looking for, but of course this trial is crucial so that justice can be served.
Claire Paccalin at the courthouse, thanks very much indeed. As we just